Ladies and gentlemen, once, our beloved Prophet superscript O had been hungry for 3 days. He didn't complain to any, he only trusted Allah. One day, Abu Hurairah O plus minus O pilcroas O section U grave O superscript 1 U grave noticed the signs of hunger on his blessed face. The Prophet superscript O went home, but none of his wives had any food. Later, a companion brought a bowl of milk. The Prophet superscript O called the people of Safaha poor companions who lived in the mosque. One by one, they drank until they were full. Then he gave it to Abu Hurairah O plus minus O pilcroas O section U grave O superscript 1 U grave comma who also drank. Only after everyone was satisfied, the Prophet superscript O drank himself. This was the patience, selflessness, and love of our Prophet superscript O for his people. The Prophet Muhammad superscript O always put others before himself, even in times of extreme hunger, showing unmatched patience, generosity, and love for his people. His entire life is a shining example of selflessness. But the moments when he himself was in need and still prioritized others are the most heart-touching. One such moment was when he had been hungry for 3 consecutive days, yet not once did he complain. He didn't ask anyone for food, nor did he show signs of irritation or sadness. Instead, he continued to serve others, greet them with a smile, and maintain his deep connection with Allah. During this time, a close companion, Abu Hurairah O plus minus O pilcroas O section U grave O superscript 1 U grave comma observed something unusual. He noticed that the Prophet superscript O appeared weak and tired. Being someone who had experienced hunger himself, Abu Hurairah understood what the signs meant. Despite his own need, he remained quiet, respecting the Prophet superscript O's dignity. The Prophet superscript O looked at him and, with his unmatched gentleness, invited him to come along. They went to one of the Prophet's superscript O homes, hoping to find something to eat. But as they knocked on the doors of his blessed wives, one by one they all responded with the same words, "By Allah, we have nothing except water." This moment is powerful because it reveals the simplicity of the home of the most beloved of Allah, the leader of all humanity. The one who had access to the treasures of the world chose a life of simplicity, contentment, and detachment from materialism. Soon after, a companion brought a bowl of milk as a gift for the Prophet superscript O. This small amount would have been enough for just 1 or 2 people. At this point, anyone in his situation of having been hungry for 3 days would have immediately taken a sip. But this was not the way of our Prophet superscript O. Instead of thinking of himself, his first thought was of others who might also be suffering from hunger. So, he told Abu Hurairah O plus minus O pilcroas O section U grave O superscript 1 U grave comma go and call the people of Safa. The people of Safa were the poor companions who had left everything for the sake of Islam and lived near the Prophet's mosque. They often had no food, no shelter, and relied solely on whatever small charity came their way. Abu Hurairah O plus minus O pilcroas O section U grave O superscript 1 U grave comma though obedient, felt a moment of hesitation. He admitted later that a thought crossed his heart: how would there be enough milk for all of them? He, too, was starving, and he feared there might not be anything left for him. But such was the training of the Prophet superscript O that even when a companion had such thoughts, they obeyed without question. Abu Hurairah called all the people of Safa, and they came one by one. The Prophet superscript O handed him the bowl and instructed him to serve each person. Abu Hurairah poured for each companion, and each one drank until he was satisfied. Abu Hurairah, holding the bowl and serving everyone, kept wondering how the milk was still not finishing. Dozens of companions drank, yet the bowl never emptied. After all had finished, the Prophet superscript O smiled at Abu Hurairah and said, "Now you drink." He drank, and the Prophet superscripto told him to drink again. He drank until he could drink no more. Finally, the Prophet superscripto took the bowl and drank the remaining milk himself. This entire event demonstrates not just a miracle of barakah, blessing, in the milk, but also the deeply rooted habit of our Prophet superscripto to serve others before himself. What is most beautiful in this story is not just the miracle that occurred, but the attitude and behavior of the Prophet superscripto. He had gone days without food, yet when the chance came to eat, he thought of the hungry people around him first. He did not consider his own discomfort. He showed leadership through compassion and sacrifice. He taught his companions through his actions that true leadership is in service, and true faith is in caring for others even when your own needs are unmet. This story also shows the incredible love the companions had for the Prophet superscripto. Abu Hurairah O +O section U grave O superscript 1 U grave comma. Even while struggling with his own hunger, never once thought of taking the milk for himself. He was completely loyal to the command of the Prophet superscripto. Knowing that whatever the Prophet instructed carried blessings, the companions lived lives of sacrifice, and this was inspired directly by the character of the Prophet superscripto. He led by example. He didn't just preach generosity and patience, he lived it. The home of the Prophet superscripto had no food, sometimes for days. He tied stones to his stomach to suppress the pain of hunger. Yet despite this, he would give whatever he had in charity. He would never turn away a beggar empty-handed. Even in moments of personal struggle, he had the strength to smile, to counsel others, and to continue his mission. This is what made his personality so magnetic. People were drawn to him not because of material power or wealth, but because of the warmth of his character and the purity of his intentions. The Prophet superscripto's behavior teaches us something timeless, that real strength lies in patience, and real wealth lies in giving, even when you have little. This incident isn't just a touching story, it's a model for us. It's a reminder that if we truly love the Prophet superscripto, we must try to follow his way. We must learn to care for others, to give even when it's difficult, to hold back our own comfort for the sake of someone else's need. The spirit of Islam is deeply rooted in such selflessness, and the life of the Prophet superscripto is its highest example.